But for this week, I want to talk about. I've read like about 12 comic books in the last 48 hours, just catching up from last week, gearing
Whoa.
up for next week. And even so, I'm not going to talk about any of those. What I want to talk about is Thundercats #1 from Dynamite Comics.
Of course.
I'm showing
Okay,
I'm
Danny,
showing the
go
guys
for it.
the
How
foil
did you
variant
not,
that I.
Danny? How did you not start off that sentence with Thundercats? Thundercats!
Oh,
Ho!
Thundercats!
I didn't want to give everything away right up front because
Okay.
but I do like that we're on this train. Like the theme of this episode so far has been like, oh, we're gonna just talk about nostalgia franchises in our comic books.
Sure.
Bring back the
Um,
80s, except don't.
yeah. So let me talk about the creators before we get into this book. So this book is written by Declan Shalvey, with art by Drew Moss, colors by Chiara de Francia and Martina Pignedoli, with letters by Jeff Eckleberry. Let me give you a quick recap. If you don't know who the Thundercats are, the Thundercats are on the move. The Thundercats are loose. Feel the magic. Hear the roar. Thundercats are loose. That's. Oh wait, that's the song. Sorry.
What? Hold on. I have zero context of the Thundercats other than I know that they are cat-ish
really?
people. Genuinely, I know about nothing about
Did
the
you not
Thundercats.
watch this on Cartoon Network when you were a
No,
child?
I was straight up like
Mike.
I watched Dragon Ball Z. That's about it. Let's be real.
Whoa.
Okay. All right. Well, Mike, I grew up watching the Thundercats on Cartoon Network, and when I was in college, my prized possession was a pair of Chiara Converse sneakers.
Okay.
So-
I recognize that
Love
name.
it.
I recognize it. Danny, what's your history with Thundercats, please? Because I feel like we're all of the same-ish age. Somehow I just completely miss Thundercats.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you've never. So what I was talking about earlier, that's the opening song.
Okay.
Obviously, it doesn't go like that, but I didn't want to get a copyright strike on our audio, right? But yeah, that's the opening of the '80s cartoon.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I watched it as a kid. I wasn't the biggest fan. I think as a concept,
Sure.
it's pretty cool. Like the idea of these, humanoid cats with a big sword, and they're fighting, this mummy and mutants
Mum-Ra.
and stuff. It's fun, but I don't. If you ask me about mythology, I remember
No idea.
nothing.
Okay.
The aesthetics, though, burned in my mind.
Okay.
Exactly, same here. The Eye of Thundera is like burned into my forehead. Um, but I think that's an advantage because going back into a comic book for a franchise, you don't want to just hear the same story or read the same story, right? Or even if you are, even if some things are changed, then you don't really remember everything. So, in this book, after the Thundercats have to escape their home planet of Thundera to look for a new home, they find Third Earth. But after their malfunctioning stasis pod causes a young Lionel to age physically, which is a detail I didn't remember. So Lionel, when they leave, he's the same age as the other cats, as Wild Kitty and Wildcat, or Willy Cat, but he ages physically, but he still has he's not mature enough yet
Wait, he's
to
Billy
lead the
Batson?
Thundercats.
This is
Kind
like
of,
Captain
yeah.
DC version Captain Marvel, Fawcett Comics
It-
Captain Marvel, all over again. Nothing is new. Everything is recycled. Continue.
It's a little bit like that, and I didn't remember that detail. So going back, and Declan Shelvey and the team do a really good job of just putting all this in a couple of pages. So it's not a recap comic. The comic isn't about their history; it's about what's going to happen afterwards. Um, so after they get to the Third Earth, they are being chased by the mutants, and then an ancient evil has awoken, who we don't get a lot of details for in the comic, but I mean it's Mumra. Like if you've ever seen the cartoon, you know that it's a Mumra.
Okay.
So I'm very excited for that. I after reading this, I did go back and watch the first two episodes of the '80s series
Oh.
just to check out the difference.
How did it
And-
age, Danny?
Well, I think the cartoon is fine. It's definitely geared for a very young audience. There's a lot of like silliness that
Snarf. The whole character
yeah,
of
it's not
Snarf.
Snarf. So funny enough, and this is a slight spoiler, Snarf is not in this first issue of Thundercats,
Oh.
even though he's in the cover. So there
False
are this leads me
advertising.
to this leads me to my next point. There are some things that they are changing. Some of the mythology is changing. So I think that's going to be a really interesting ride because I believe Declan Shalvey and Drew Moss are big fans of the franchise, but they also want to tell their own story. So I appreciate the changes because it makes it feel like something new. One thing I really loved was in the art, it really captures that motion of Lionel, like, pulling out the sword of omens and yelling Thundercats. Like, just those movements are kind of like burned into my brain, those images. And Drew Moss does such a good job of just capturing like the big, him swinging around his sword and putting it up and yelling ho, like all that stuff. It really captures it. So is it nostalgia? For sure, but when it's done well and there's enough changes for it to me for me to be invested, I think it's gonna be just fine. I do wish this was a little longer to get a little bit more story,
Hmm.
but I think I'm just being greedy there. So yeah, I really enjoy this. I'm surprised to hear that Mike has no familiarity with this franchise, so I'd be
This is
interested
blowing my
in your
mind.
take. Yeah.
I mean, if I can get a copy of it, I'll check it out. But like, it's Dynamite, which means that it's like print only, and their digital distribution is only through Amazon. And I don't know.
Ooh,
Then there's like what 475,000 variants for this issue. So I mean, I don't know. I could
How
probably
many did you buy,
yeah.
Danny?
That was my next
just
question.
just the
Just
one.
the one. I'm
I
I'm proud of
I
you.
I'm
only
so
bought
proud of
the
you.
the one.
Yeah.
I am proud of myself too. But I feel like if I do go to a convention or something soon and I see some other ones, I might pick them up.
Hmm.
But Mike, to the distribution thing you were talking about, I agree. I think on the Discord we were chatting about like there's people that couldn't go to the shop but they wanted to read it,
Yeah, and
and
it wasn't on Amazon. It was like it wasn't anywhere.
no, we didn't know how to pick it up. I
Exactly.
have a
Oh,
preview
boo.
copy, but I didn't know how to tell them to go buy this digitally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer.
Dynamite really doing themselves a disservice with like not being accessible enough to their
Yeah,
customers.
especially on a
Yeah.
big title like this, I'm really surprised this isn't like being pushed everywhere, right? Like I feel like if they're gonna
Yeah,
triple down on this nostalgia bullshit, they might as well they need to make it as available as possible to people. So I don't know, maybe that'll get
yeah.
resolved by the second issue, but yeah, it's kind of weird.
Pre-orders for this book were
Yeah,
170,000 for issue 1,
yeah,
Oh,
which is
wow.
wild for like an independent, like anything outside of Marvel and DC. I don't think you get numbers even close to
yeah,
that. So
Are those numbers like are they being put in a do people still get nerd boxes? I feel like those numbers only really happen if it's like everyone's getting a
yeah. I feel like
so
Loot
something.
Crate, but
they had closed the final order cutoff and then they opened it up again because of the high demand.
Oh, wow.
So
wow,
I've never heard of that in my 10 to 15 years of reading
Okay.
comic books.
interesting,
Okay.
interesting.
Go Dynamite, I
Yeah,
guess. Things I
Yeah.
thought I'd never
I
say.
know.